The contemporary pop landscape is a theater of perpetual announcement. Debuts are seismic events preceded by cascading teasers, cryptic trailers, and press releases that speak in the urgent language of impending revolution. It is a logic of noise where volume is often mistaken for substance. MiSaMo, the Japanese subunit of Twice, operated on a different principle. Theirs was not an entrance but an arrival, a quiet assumption of a space that had been, through a complex 8-year alchemy of pressure, restraint, and structural necessity, prepared exclusively for them. This is not a story of a rise. It is the autopsy of an inevitability. To understand the subunit's genesis, one must first dismiss the narrative of accidental sidelining. In the original architecture of Twice, debuting in 2015, Mina, Sana, and Momo were not overlooked. They were strategically deployed. They served as critical yet specialized infrastructure. Mina provided balletic precision, a foundational grace for complex formations. Sana acted as the primary cultural and emotional diplomat, her sun-drenched personality a bridge to broader audiences. Momo functioned as the group's kinetic engine, an undisputed technical authority. Their roles were essential to the machine's function, but the machine's design did not require them to be a public face. Early line distributions and promotional focuses reflect this structural truth. They were the supporting cast in a story led by others. This period was not a waste, but an incubation. Excellence in the margins builds a different kind of power, one of reliability, of professional trust, of a depth that escapes the fluctuating glare of the spotlight. The pressure that followed was not a series of unfortunate events, but a necessary filtration process. As Twice ascended to become a national phenomenon, scrutiny intensified, and the Japanese line faced trials that served as brutal, non-negotiable credentials. For Momo, it was the reductivist criticism of her vocal abilities, a persistent attempt to confine a master dancer to a single dimension. For Sana, the pressure was geopolitical. A simple, nostalgic social media post marking a Japanese-era transition erupted into a cross-cultural firestorm, forcing her to bear the weight of diplomatic tensions no artist should reasonably carry. For Mina, the battle was profoundly internal, culminating in a withdrawal from major tours due to extreme anxiety. These were not mere hardships to be sympathized. They were existential tests. The fact that they did not break but instead returned, Momo steadily improving, Sana retaining her essential warmth, Mina reclaiming her stage with the protective solidarity of her members, transformed their narrative. It certified a resilience that pre-packaged hype can never simulate. Their authority would later be rooted in this proven capacity to endure. Concurrently, the very system that housed them developed a powerful, profitable constraint. In Japan, Twice had constructed a brand of unparalleled consistency and success, that of the festival queens. Tracks like Wake Me Up and Kpop forged an identity of pure, undiluted celebration, bright, energetic, and communal. It was a commercial masterpiece, driving record sales and dome tours. However, this identity became a gilded cage. Artistic maturation, the natural desire to explore more sophisticated sounds and themes, was structurally incompatible with the core brand promise. To pivot would risk alienating the massive foundation that adored Twice precisely for that unchanging joy. The group's Japanese identity was too valuable, too specific to evolve. This created a strategic paradox. How does an empire address the evolving tastes of its subject without altering the constitution of the empire itself? The resolution was engineered through strategic patience. The concept of a Japanese subunit was likely always a latent possibility within JYP Entertainment's long-term planning, but its activation required a precise convergence of conditions. Premature deployment would have been perceived as a distraction, a dilution of resources, or worse, an admission of internal factionalism. The subunit required the main group to first achieve a state of unshakable security and mutual trust. The solo debuts of other Twice members, beginning with Nayeon in 2022, were critical precursors. They signaled a paradigm shift. Twice was now a coalition of secure individual artists, not a monolithic unit threatened by internal exploration. For 8 years, the Japanese line's professionalism was a constant. Their patience transformed from passive waiting into active accrual, of skill, of fan loyalty, of cultural capital. They were not in stasis, they were in strategic reserve, their value compounding silently. The breakpoint, therefore, arrived not with a shout, but with a subtle, telling crack in the facade. The release of Bouquet in January 2023 was the first tangible signal. This insert song, featuring only Mina, Sana, and Momo, presented a mellow, refined, and mature sound entirely divorced from Twice's Japanese festival energy. Its existence was a proof of concept. It demonstrated that the artistic lane, the sophisticated, intimate pop their core brand could not occupy, was not only viable but already fully formed, waiting behind a locked door. The subsequent official announcement of MiSaMo was merely a bureaucratic ratification of a new reality. The system's constraints had created a pent-up demand, and the artists it had tempered were the only possible key. key. The subunit did not emerge from the group. It was extruded by the strategic tension between brand and artistic growth. What followed were not proofs, but a series of confirmations. The 2023 debut EP Masterpiece and its 2024 successor Haute Couture did not attempt to convince. They simply documented an established truth on a larger scale. The platinum certifications, the #1 chart debuts on Oricon and Billboard Japan, the headline performance at Tokyo Dome. These metrics were the market formally acknowledging a long-settled argument. The music itself was the definitive evidence. Sophisticated R&B, elegant pop, and stylish hip-hop inflections performed entirely in Japanese, co-written by the members, and paying direct tribute to J-pop legacy. This was not K-pop translated. It was a cultural product, authentic and specific. Momo commanded vocals with a newfound centered assurance. Mina's elegance became the thematic core, not a decorative accent. Sana's maturity, long veiled by Egyo, found its natural expression. The spotlight did not create these qualities. It finally revealed them. The final analytical conclusion is one of structural integrity and strategic genius. MiSaMo's success did not disrupt twice. It computationally expanded its domain. The parent group remains and can now more fervently embrace its role as Japan's festival queens, its core identity protected and strengthened. MiSaMo operates as the mature, sophisticated counterpart, addressing the evolved appetites of a growing fan base and fulfilling the artistic inclinations of its members. This is not a fracturing, but a speciation. It represents a blueprint for legacy acts navigating maturity. Instead of forcing an entire empire to change its flag, establish a new, adjacent territory with its own distinct governance. The success is rooted not in luck or vague notions of hard work, but in a cold, deliberate calculus, the leveraging of systemic constraints, the strategic accumulation of credibility, and the precise timing of release. MiSaMo stands as a case study in earned expansion. Their narrative is a closed loop of cause and effect, where every moment of marginalization, every instance of pressure, every year of patience was a necessary input that guaranteed the output. They did not chase a spotlight. They conditioned one to seek them out. In an industry obsessed with the fireworks of the new, they demonstrated the superior power of the inevitable. Their story concludes not with celebration, but with the quiet certainty of a theorem proven.